If you like this video, please share it with your filmmaking friends. This video is read by Drew and written by Taylor Edwards. intellytech reached out and offered to send me the version 2 of their LiteCloth LC-160 to get my opinion of it. It's a super lightweight foldable bicolor LED mat that comes with a softbox setup. This video is going to be broken down into 2 sections, a lighting tutorial and a review of the LC-160. To skip to the review, you can go to this timecode. For all you cool kids who didn't skip to the review, today we are going to break down how we shot this moody bar scene. I want to thank my amazing actors Lawrence Murphy and Peter Williams, who worked with me to improv this scene on the night, and also my behind the scenes cameraman Tavian. The story is about a man who meets up with a hitman in a bar to try to hire him to murder his wife as she is divorcing him. The twist is that the wife already hired this hitman to kill the husband, and then this happens. Anyways, let's get into the lighting. For this scene, I knew a couple of things going in. First, the overhead lighting was going to be the main light I base everything else off of. And second, this was going to be a very dramatic look, so I would have to accent it. With that knowledge in place, I started to build our look. The first thing we did was put the camera in place, so we have a frame to reference. Then we set up our light cloth on a C-stand mounted boom arm, set to 3000 Kelvin, positioned directly over the table where our actors would be sitting. I turned off all the lights in the room and found where the light level was the most visually pleasing. I landed on 10%. I then turned it off so we would have a better idea of what the following lights are doing to both our frame and actors. I then positioned 3 RGB tubes set to red around our set to provide an accent to both the environment and our characters. The first was a half-size tube set to full power, pointed up at the back frosted window to separate our character from the background. The second was placed about 45 degrees behind and to the left of the frame, set to 75% power. This was to edge our actor's head. This makes him feel more a part of the room. The third was placed behind the bar, 45 degrees behind the camera left of the frame, slightly pointed at our actor at about 50% power. As in my head, I'm picturing the bar having a large red neon sign, causing a lot of this glow directly to the left side of the frame. I then turned the light cloth back on. This was starting to look nice, but I felt like we were losing the moody look I was going for. So we added a black cloth to cover the table, to remove some of the light bouncing off of the table back onto the actor's face. It was at this point we turned the haze machine on. I wanted to diffuse the light and get a bit of a softer image. Something that is important to keep in mind is that the amount of haze in the room will affect your image very differently the further away you are from your subject. For example, both these shots have the same amount of haze, but because the close-up is, well, closer, there is less haze between the lens and the actor, so it appears clearer. I was able to correct for most of this in the grade, but that's not always possible, especially if you want the less contrasty look. And for this one shot, we turned on a practical light in the bar, just to give the frame a little more visual flair. The lighting for the other actor was very similar. The main difference was we put the tubes in slightly sloppy positioning to make the light look more messy and less purposefully constructed. This was meant to subconsciously reflect this character has less control in the scene. We also swapped out the back tube for an RGB panel, as we needed the light to project further down the hallway. With that said, I hope you learned something, and let's talk about it in the comments if you did. Okay, let's get into my review. The LiteCloth LC-160 is a bicolor 160 watt light with an advertised color temperature range from 3000 to 9999 Kelvin. One of the biggest benefits of this light is its lightweight factor. You can literally gaffer tape it to a wall or roof if needed. It also has a very thin profile, even with using the softbox and grid setup. This velcros onto the light frame and clips onto a stand mount if needed. And the power supply / control box clips onto a stand with the included adjustable mount, which makes it ideal for small studios when you want to leave lights set up, or for locations when you want a large source but don't have space or convenience for a Bowen style softbox or a frame. I took out my Sekonic C800 color meter to test the color accuracy. The following testing was done at 3 meters with the diffusion material off. But for reference, the included diffusion cloth makes the light about 100 Kelvin cooler and you lose about 30% output, which is to be expected. When measuring at 3000 Kelvin, I got a reading of 2995 Kelvin and 500 lux. At 5500 Kelvin, I got a reading of 5012 Kelvin and 560 lux. And at 9999 Kelvin, I got a reading of 8582 Kelvin and 640 lux. In terms of Kelvin accuracy, it's pretty close. You tend to find lights are much more accurate at one end of the spectrum. but I did ask intellytech about this. Their position is that 3000 to 7000 Kelvin is really high quality and useful for professional lighting with an average CRI of 97, but after that point, it's mainly for creative uses. The light comes in this extremely well-built carry case, which is both dust and weather resistant, but it's so heavy. As much as I appreciate how well built it is, and to have that included in the cost is fantastic, but it does take a little bit away from the lightweight factor of the light itself. And it's pretty jam-packed. It just barely fits everything in. I've accidentally closed the case on the cables multiple times. They haven't broken as of yet, but it's happening enough times that I worry they might eventually. Something very handy is that besides plugging it into an outlet, you can also power the light with V-Lock or gold mount batteries. A 200 watt-hour battery should power the light for about 75 minutes. And I think we need to talk about the Velcro. Some people love it, but others hate it. For me, I think it works fairly well. But my main concern is longevity. I don't know how long something like this can last. Also, you may be interested to know there is an intellytech Bluetooth app available for iOS, and I was able to test out a beta version of it on my Android phone. From here, you can finally control the output and color temperature and have quicker access to the effects. intellytech also offer accessories like a remote control, a lantern with skirts, a frame that holds 2 units, and an extension cable, which I would recommend if you want to rig this in interesting places. For the most part, I think everything there is very reasonably priced. Something I noticed is that the light does tend to lean a little magenta to varying degrees. This is pretty common for most, if not all, bicolor lights with either leaning magenta or green, but there is no exact easy solution to fix this. You could go out and buy a bunch of different levels of tint correction gels, cut them to size to fit in the softbox and carry them in your kit, but that would be expensive. My recommendation is if you are someone who needs super accurate colors, then don't buy this light. Buy the RGBWW version instead. It will run you about $400 more, but for me, that is well worth it if it fixes this issue. Fair warning, you will have about 15% less output overall from this version, but it's a fairly bright light regardless. Remember, this shot was only on 10%, which is rather impressive. Overall, I do recommend these lights. I'm really liking how useful it has been in my productions, and I'm thinking about grabbing another one because of how lightweight and portable they are. I have put a link down in the description where you can buy both versions of this light online. But that's it for today. I'll catch you next time.
Life is good, but it can be better.
It's real simple.
Check out the film
on YouTube.
He's totally wicked!
without a doubt.
Really?
Awesome!
I want to subscribe.
Do it now! I'm talking to you!
I'm here to save you from
Horrible channels.
All over!
On the internet, you kids are gonna love it.